A faint rumble echoed through the valley. The earth trembled not with thunder, but with footsteps. Massive and ancient. No one alive today remembers the sound, yet it was once the rhythm of the world, when the children of heaven and earth walked among men. It began in the days before the flood, when the world was still young and the veil between heaven and earth was thin. According to the Book of Enoch, 200 luminous beings, angels known as the Watchers, descended upon Mount Hermon. They bound themselves with an oath. Having grown weary of the heavens, they hungered for what they saw on earth. The daughters of men, beautiful and mortal. They took them as wives, and from these unions came beings unlike anything the world had ever known. Giants, titans of flesh and spirit, towering far above man, with voices like thunder and eyes that burned like molten bronze. They devoured the harvest of men, drank rivers dry, and turned upon humankind. When food ran out, the texts say, they began to consume flesh. First of beasts, then of man. The cries of the earth reached the heavens. The Creator looked upon what the Watchers had done, and saw corruption stretching from the ground to the stars. And so, judgment was decreed. Enoch, a righteous man and scribe of God, was taken up to bear witness. He saw the rebellion of the Watchers and the response of the Creator. Tell them, a voice commanded, that they shall have no peace. Their sons shall perish, and their spirits shall wander the earth. And so, Enoch warned them, but it was too late. The giants ravaged the land, and the world became a prison of violence. Then came the flood. Waters burst from the deep. Mountains vanished. Valleys filled, and the cries of the nephilim echoed through the storm. Their great bodies sank beneath the flood, buried in mud and darkness. Yet Enoch wrote something few recall. That the spirits of these giants, once their flesh perished, would remain on earth as wandering entities. Restless, hungry, and seeking vessels among the living. The Nephilim were gone, but their presence was not erased. Generations passed. The world dried, and life began anew. But then, the stories returned. In the days of Moses, when spies were sent into the land of Canaan, they came back trembling. We saw the descendants of the Nephilim there, they said. In comparison to them, we were like grasshoppers. Later, when Israel faced her enemies, the echoes of the ancient bloodline stood before them. Og, the king of Bashan, whose iron bed measured over 13 feet long. The sons of Enoch, great and tall, whose cities were fortified to the sky. And the most famous of all, Goliath of Gath, a giant 9 feet tall, whose spear weighed more than a man. These were not myths to those who faced them. They were living proof that something ancient had survived. Somehow, in the shadows of the flood, remnants of the giant bloodline endured. The Bible speaks sparingly of these beings, but the Book of Enoch and other apocryphal texts reveal their deeper tale. It is said that the Watchers, bound beneath the earth, were imprisoned until the final judgment. But their offspring spirits, disembodied and cursed, became the unclean spirits that haunt mankind to this day. This is where myth meets theology, where spiritual warfare finds its root. If the stories are true, every demon cast out in the New Testament, every restless entity in Scripture, traces its lineage back to the Nephilim, the unnatural offspring of heaven's rebellion. And yet, a darker possibility lingers. What if their physical bloodline never truly ended? Imagine this. A few giant clans survived the flood, hidden, isolated, and interbreeding with human tribes. Over thousands of years, their height diminished, their features softened, their strength concealed within the ordinary. As they mixed with humans, the towering form of the ancient Nephilim faded, but the bloodline persisted. Could their descendants be walking among us today? Theorists claim that certain bloodlines, those marked by unusual height or dominance, carry a fragment of the old giant gene. The Nephilim, they argue, are not extinct, they are simply normal-sized. Ancient historians like Josephus wrote of giants seen in his own day, bones so massive that men stood in awe before them. In the 1800s, American newspapers reported unearthed skeletons over 10 feet tall. Most of those stories vanished, were dismissed or hidden, yet whispers remain. Could these relics have belonged to the lost race of the Nephilim? Science dismisses the existence of such beings, yet it cannot fully explain certain anomalies. Some families produce individuals far exceeding average human height. 7, 8, and even 9 feet tall. Could these rare cases be echoes of ancient DNA long dormant? Others point to legends worldwide. Every culture has stories of giants. The Anunnaki of Mesopotamia, the Titans of Greece, the Jotun of Norse myth. The stories differ, but the theme is the same. Divine beings mingled with mortals, producing a race both magnificent and doomed. And what if these myths aren't separate? What if they all remember the same truth, fractured through language and time? Enoch wrote that the spirits of the giants would rise again in the last days. The Bible, too, hints at a future time, as it was in the days of Noah. Could this mean that history will repeat itself? That the world will once more see the return of the forbidden union between the divine and the human? Some researchers connect this prophecy with modern experiments in genetics and transhumanism, efforts to enhance, hybridize, and to merge humanity with something greater. Are we unknowingly attempting to recreate the sin of the Watchers? In this theory, the Nephilim never left. Their ambition flows in the bloodstream of humanity. When you look back at the ancient world, massive megaliths like Baalbek, pyramids that defy explanation, stones weighing hundreds of tons, you might wonder, what kind of hands carved them? Were these the handiwork of ancient man alone? Or remnants of giant craftsmanship, fading into myth as their builders died off?